Silverback runner, helping older runners to be consistent, resilient, faster, non-elite runners. Hello, my name's Lee Boniface. I suppose you probably are a older, non-elite runner or would-be runner, and this site is created for you if that is the case. As an older runner, in my opinion, you have to consider three core factors. You have to have consistency, you have to have resilience, and you have to have speed. So let's just cover what I mean by those. Consistency. If you want to run 10k, 10 miles, half marathon, an ultra, you need consistency. You need to run consistently. Be that 4, 5, 6 days a week, depending on how many rest days you have. You need a consistent focus on what you will fuel your body with so that you can do effective training and, of course, recover effectively. You need resilience. To be consistent, you need to be resilient, physically resilient and mentally resilient, to be able to achieve that consistency that I mentioned just a moment ago. As an older runner, you have to adapt your training to enable an adaptation to occur, basically gains, while not breaking yourself so that you don't get injured. You need to build resilience to develop the foundation of running, which is, if you're going to run further than say 10k, is a good aerobic base, while also having the mental resiliency to be consistent, if not perfect. And then ultimately, you need speed. Now, whatever speed is to you, it's not a comparative thing. I mean about getting quicker for you. So once you have built up the foundation of the aerobic base, you can then get faster. Ultimately, what I'm saying is you end up running further and faster as an older non-elite runner. That's it in a nutshell. How do I know this? As I say, my name's Lee Boniface. I'm a 57-year-old runner that has run pretty much all his adult life. In my 20s, in my 30s, I basically surfed my natural ability. Genetics, I've never put weight on. I trained the minimum and was an ardent drinker of wine and beer. My diet was pretty much whatever was put in front of me. I was one of these irritating people that never put any weight on. My age and genetics pretty much gave me a free pass. I did okay with my running in my 30s and 40s. I did a 19.5 minute 5k. I ran 40 minutes in a 10k. I ran 3:24 in a marathon. And also I did the Brave 10 in 10, which is 10 marathons over 10 days. So good, if not astounding times for a non-elite athlete drinking. Basically somebody that was pretty much doing the minimum kind of training, the maximum amount of drinking, and basically getting pretty good results. However, then I hit my late 40s and early 50s. My running became more inconsistent. Minor injuries and niggles started to occur. I had some back problems and started to get problems with my hamstrings. And also I started to notice I didn't have the energy I once had. That feeling you need a nap around about 2 p.m. My drinking was becoming habitual and I was running less and less. Now this would have pretty much stayed that way except for a conversation I had with a friend and a fellow runner in my salon when I was about perhaps 50, 51. And he asked me a question while I was cutting his hair. When was your peak as a runner, Lee? Now, I hesitated for a moment because even though I was in my 50s at that point, mentally I really hadn't accepted that I was past my peak. But I answered the questions pragmatically. I said probably my early 30s and 40s. However, when he left, the conversation kept going through my mind. When was my peak as a runner? It just kept going through my mind. And then I thought again, what do I want my peak to be? Perhaps this wasn't my peak. Perhaps I can go faster. Perhaps I can get better. And that started an evolutionary change in my running. I'd given up alcohol about 3 years prior to that, which had changed a lot for me. And now I began to look at my diet and how I trained. And I started to use the fact that the sands of time were now against me as a motivating factor to get more disciplined in my training. I now started to use the fact that I knew that my peak was behind me if I didn't do anything, and egotistically I didn't want that to be the case. Yes, I accepted I was getting older. Ultimately, I know I would get slower. Yes, I accepted that I would never be 22, 32 or even 42 again. But I wanted to see how good a runner I could be in my 50s, my 60s and even my 70s. What if those years held some more peaks for me, or even some PBs? And this is where we come to now. I'm 57 years old. I'm now faster, fitter and more resilient runner than when I was 35 years old. Though I am waiting for those official PBs at the moment because the COVID pandemic kind of got in the way. So let me ask you a question. What do you want your peak to be as a runner? So if you're 40, 50, 60 years old or maybe older, the facts are if you're lucky, you will get older. Ultimately, you will get slower. However, there is a vast difference between accepting the universal truths of aging versus society that passively often convinces people that they're on a downward spiral from 30 years of age onward. It's not, in many cases, an age that is the factor, but our modern day lifestyles. So, if you want to continue to be an energetic, vibrant person in your 40s and beyond, and notice I didn't say runner, because for me, running is the pastime that also delivers the potential benefits of longer lifespan and, more importantly, for me at least, a longer health span. A better quality of life in the second stage of our lives is the big picture for me as an older runner. To be an example to my children, even though they're grown up now, an example of vibrancy and good health to perhaps grandchildren to come. Of course, there are no guarantees. However, for me, it's about being the best version of yourself while at the same time making yourself harder to kill. If you're willing to adapt, and you don't have to live like a nun or a monk, but adapt your lifestyle to become a better non-elite older runner, you can become more consistent, more resilient and faster, plus more energized, positive and more mentally resilient person in your everyday life. That's my bold goal and desire for Silverback Runner. So enjoy the site, and if you've got any questions, please ask. So let's do this. Bye for now.